Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. My name is Callie, and this is another weekend of clarinets, cats, and coffee. In today's video, I am going to give you a few tips on how to learn music by ear. Now, this was a question given to me by a patron of my channel over on Patreon, and she sent it to me about a month ago, and honestly have had to really think about it because I think it would make a really great video topic, but I had to kind of really think about how to break it down into smaller steps for somebody who maybe is just getting started in this. This video is really only going to be useful for the player who knows most of the notes of their instrument, who can notate music. So you need to know what buttons to push and what notes are coming out and where to write it on your staff paper. And you need to have a general understanding of rhythm and time signature. So that's really all you need. There are some bonus tips at the end for diving deeper into the music, but at the very, very basic level, you just need to know notes, you need to know basic rhythms, and you really just need to know how to write music down. So learning by ear, what I'm teaching you is something that we call transcribing. So it means you listen to the music and then you write it down. You could also just listen to the music and learn it and not write anything down, but that's not what this video is about. This is about notating it so you can go back and review later so you have your song there on your piece of paper. Now, learning music by ear is something I've kind of always done my whole life. I remember as a kid recording Saturday morning shows of the Jim Cullum Jazz Band playing. I don't know if any of you guys watching there ever listened to them, but I just thought, and still do, think that the clarinetist from the band, Ron Hockett, was so amazing, and I loved his solos. So I would record and I would goof around and try to learn the solos, and I'd write it down, and some things were more successful than others, but it was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. Just that pure childlike enjoyment of the act. And so I encourage anybody and everybody to dabble in this whenever they can. And you can do this learning very simple tunes and work your way up to learning more complex solos. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have some staff paper and a pencil. I highly recommend a pencil because you're going to probably erase a lot and renotate things a lot, and there's going to be a lot of trial and error when you first start out, so just be kind to yourself as you learn and just know this is all part of the process. Okay, so you've got your notebook and your pencil ready. My number one tip, and you could even just stop after you watch this part, is if you can sing it, you can play it. Okay, your ear is your most useful tool in this. Okay, you've got to be able to match pitch from what you hear into what you play. So you've got your clarinet there, you're listening, hum whatever it is you think you hear, and try to find the notes on your instrument. That's a really basic kind of what I would call hunt and peck sort of way of transcribing, but it's a really great way of kind of training your ear to truly listen to what you're hearing. The second thing is that repetition is going to be your friend. So I know out there in the world there's this magical thing where people are like, oh, they heard the song once and then they could play it. Okay, great, that's cool. That's like 1% of people who play musical instruments. The rest of us need a lot of repetition to hear and transcribe and learn things by ear. Okay, so if you've got a song you really love, listen to it a lot. You've got to just like embody the song. You got to know the rhythm, you've got to feel it, you got to know the tune, and you got to be able to sing it. Okay, so listen to it a lot. So the next thing you want to do is figure out what your time signature is. Now, don't be afraid to make a mistake in this. I've listened to many things before and have thought that they were in one time signature only to find out that they were in a completely different time signature. My favorite example is one of the tracks from Pirates of the Caribbean. For the longest time, before I even saw the music, I thought it was da 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 da. And I always thought it felt kind of weird, and in my mind, that's just how it notated itself. So okay, that's fine. So anyway, it can be very useful to know your time signature and kind of know where the beats land, and just know you may be wrong at some point, and that's fine. The next thing, it could also be very useful to know what key you were in. Now this is a little bit tricky because, you know, of modulations and things like that. But if it's a short lick of a piece or a short song, you know, for example, Happy Birthday, look at the last chord of the piece or the last note of the solo or piece or song. The root note of the final chord is most likely going to be the key of the song that you are playing. Now, you don't have to know that, but it is useful when you're trying to figure out accidentals, because some of those accidentals might actually just be part of your key signature, and you could just notate that and save yourself a lot of hunt and peck time. And then when you go back later, you can be like, ah, yes, this is in the key of A, and you've got it, you got your key signature. Now that brings me to my next tip. This is kind of a bonus tip, but it can be useful, and I highly recommend everybody do this. Make sure you know all of your major and minor scales, know your different forms of minor scales, like all of the basic scales, you know, major, harmonic minor, melodic minor, natural minor. Know your arpeggios that go with your major and minor scales. And then bonus tip, learn your dominant seventh and your diminished seventh chords, just so you can easily recognize these things when you hear them. Oh yes, and chromaticism. Chromaticism is very important. Sometimes it is hard to distinguish when we're listening, but if you're good at your chromatic scale, it is a lot easier to pick out chromaticism when you hear it. All right, and the last bonus tip is to learn your different intervals. For example, you've got your major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, minor seventh, and octave. But of course, it is not absolutely necessary, because you can definitely figure things out if you just kind of hunt and peck. And my last tip is technology is your friend. So find the song you want to learn on YouTube, and you can actually slow the video down to half speed, quarter speed, whatever, and it won't impact the pitch that comes out. So if you're listening to something that's insanely fast and you're like, I cannot keep up with this, but I really want to learn this song, just slow it down on the YouTube video to halfway, so you can kind of go through and pause and figure out what the notes are. I learned that tip from one of my students who was also a very, very good jazz saxophonist as well. So I don't teach saxophone. I also don't teach jazz. So what they were doing seemed pretty amazing to me. They would come in and play their solos and stuff, and I was like, wow, you're awesome. Great job. Okay, so anyway, I hope that this helps you guys get started. This is a very, very basic level, but listen, it's fun. It's fun to figure out music. It's fun to like have this thing you can press buttons and notes come out, so you might as well use it. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a good week next week, and as always, happy practicing.